Okay, I'm going to talk more about Broken Country by Clare Leslie Hall. This was a Reese's book club pick and a pick for my book club. And I read the book and I really, really, really enjoyed it. I also had some other thoughts. So I will start with what I enjoyed. I really enjoyed the atmosphere of the book. It's in the English countryside, and there's also a little bit of Oxford, England, and also the time period is in the late 60s and 70s. Well, it goes back and forth in time. And I like that there's these moments of bringing in that style and those cultural nods to that the 70s in London, like that mod moving into hippies. And I thought the author, Clare, is a really, really great writer. I think what she accomplished with this book is no small feat. I think you can tell she has put a lot of work into it. And I haven't put enough research to know about Clare to know more. Yes, novelist who lives in the wilds of Dorset, England with her family. She has published 2 thrillers in the United Kingdom and Germany. But you can tell that there was a lot of time, thought, and effort into the development of this book because the plot is not a simple plot by any means. It is suspenseful because it opens up where you don't know what's going on. And it opens up, there's a trial, and it says the farmer is dead, and you don't know who's who, what's what, and, that really pulls you in. I, myself, don't really get pulled in by those sorts of things as much because I don't know what's going on, but I thought what she did was really clever and good, and also the other parts of it, like, a lot of this was very clever, and I think what I like the most about this is how different it was because it wasn't expected. It wasn't tropey. Like, the way it unfolded was not how I expected, and there's not many books that I've read that have had this plot development the way she did it. I am not a huge fan of books that, like, center around the death of a child, personally, just because it's really heavy and sad, but that's why I love literature, because it does, there are books that you read that it's really good to read things that maybe that are not comfortable for you to read, and I thought that was a very interesting plot device to connect everything together. Well, not a plot, that was the web. And I guess I'm going to just kind of be fully open. The way I also did not see the way the ending happened, I really didn't see it happening. I did there were some hints where I was like, but I really didn't know what was going to happen. And so that was also really, really noteworthy because to be able to do that, especially in this day and age, is difficult. So I think this is a really worth the read. I also I love books about England, Jane Austen and all those sorts of things, the English canon, the British literature canon, and this really feels like an ode to that, because you're in the English countryside, there's a love triangle, and I will say what I didn't like as well is the protagonist's Beth. I understand that this is this is just how what happens in this character's life. She ended up not going to Oxford because of the breakup with her Gabriel, who was the posh neighbor who had the big estate in the countryside, and he was in Oxford, and then that kind of inspired her, and she was very smart, and she got into Oxford, and she ended up not going, and it really upset me that she ended up not going, and one of the reasons she said was because she couldn't handle like running into him. And I'm just like, that pisses me off just as a whole, because, you know, and then also she did end up, was pregnant, so there's that too. And because the whole plot is very delicately balanced on like misinformation, and when you get to the end and you realize like the sequence of events, it really frustrates you, because you're like, this feels like it could have been avoided, all of this pain and strife, but it didn't. And again, that's the power of literature. But I also didn't love that feel, because I was just like, oh my God. Because, you know, here's the thing is like, her and Gabriel had this beautiful like love affair. He was from the high class, upper class family, and she was from the lower class, and his mom would like do all these digs at her all the time. And then he went to Oxford. She went to visit him. There was all these miscommunications, and she just like left, and they broke up. She said some mean things, and they broke up, and she never heard from him again. But she was pregnant. And then she went to tell his mom, not him, which that's where I was like a little like she just like went to his house to be like, oh, I'm going to tell him. And her mom was like, oh, I'll take care of it, and gave her a check. And again, I don't know if I was in that position again, I don't know. And then we also at this time didn't have like social media. And this could have happened, and it probably happened a lot. But like, I think then it turns out she raised his son, and then her son died. That's the dead child. And the man she was with, Frank, the farmer she ended up marrying, who is a very sweet, loving man, who she also was in love with, you know, raised this other man's child, and then the child died. And then, so it's like, there's all of that. But then she does have an affair with Gabriel when he comes back. And I'm also just like, what is she doing? It's all these little decisions make a life. It's just when you see and read about this character, you realize, like, she really wanted to go to school, and she really loved learning, and she wanted to be a writer, and she kind of threw that away. Or she never wrote. And at the end, like, there is a poem, and it's like she's getting back into writing, but it just like makes you sad. But I guess that's the power of great literature. And I think I'm not shitting on the book at all. I'm just like explaining. I think that's the mark of a great book, is when you can really dig in and talk about what the characters did and why they did what they did, and what you agree with and don't agree with, because that's the mark of a world of its own. You know, like, we as the reader have the privilege to talk about it because it's a book. It's not a real, you know, and so this author created a world that we can talk about. And so I think she's an incredible writer. I think what she did is really, really phenomenal and like well done. I just like, there was like parts of it where you're just like, you know, it's like, what, you know, like you're like want to pull out your hair, because you're like, if you just made that turn and did that differently, or if you would have just spoken to him, it wouldn't have happened like that kind of thing. And again, that's a big mark of a great book, because I'm invested, I care. So highly recommend reading this to talk about. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you've read it and what you think. So let me know. Enjoy, and we'll see what I'm reading next. I have lots in store. I need to read a good book next, like something that knocks my socks off. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. Bye.